Hi, welcome to another edition of IP Somm. I'm Heather Boyd, owner and proprietor of Pillar IP, and my guest today is Doreen Ashton Wagner, and she's from Alexandria, Ontario, and she runs this wonderful organization called the Business Sisters. Doreen, why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization, please?
Well, first, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And Business Sisters is a social enterprise that's actually dedicated to women business owners, primarily in rural or small towns. It happens to be that most of our community are based in Eastern Ontario, so from Ottawa down to Brockville, Kingston, that area, all the way to the Quebec border, with a sprinkling of folks in Western Quebec. And the reason why I established or came to want to create this kind of community and social enterprise is basically because I felt that there weren't many networks available for women business owners in more rural areas, so outside of the larger urban centers. So our vision is to bring people together, offer them networking opportunities, as well as professional and business development, very much based on peer-to-peer learning, as opposed to a coaching model where one person says, I've got all the answers and I'm going to teach them to you. We like to bring people together and share their experience, their lived experience in business, and hopefully help others by creating models and role models and examples of what can happen.
Doreen, you mentioned that you're going back to university to get your master's degree, and you're writing your thesis currently, right? You're writing your thesis right now on entrepreneurial resilience, and
that's correct.
Is it geared only to women, or are you comparing the two sexes in terms of resilience?
No, I'm not. It's not a comparative study. It's very much focusing on women business owners in a rural area.
Okay, and what do you think is the basis of a woman's resilience?
Ooh, that's how much time you got?
I know. Sorry, I'm hitting you with the tough questions here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Specifically, I'm trying with this research. What I'm trying to do is isolate or identify the factors that affect resilience. And really, because the way I'm researching this is through in-depth interviews, it's really based on what the women themselves are telling me is the basis for their resilience. So the first thing that I asked was, what is your definition of resilience? And there's very much some consistency around what people consider to be resilience. I'm hearing things like, well, it's persevering, it's pushing through in times of difficulty. There's a lot of that, the theme of overcoming the challenge, of sticking it out, and so on. And yet, when you ask women, where does the resilience come from, what has helped you, and so on, and is personal resilience different from business resilience, I've had a variety of answers. Some people say because they identify with their business so intensely, their business is them, their personal resilience means their business resilience. It's the same thing. For others, they really look at it completely different. It's resilience at the family level and so on, but that's different from my business. So it's a very personal journey, and I would say that what it's made me realize is, frankly, resilience is in the eye of the beholder to a certain extent. I mean, I may think, oh, gee, sounds like you're struggling, but they in fact are doing really, really well. Or I may look at or hear somebody's story and think, oh my God, they're really doing well, whereas in fact they're thinking they're not. So it comes down to your personal perception, I think, to a certain extent. And but having said that, I'm trying to tease out what sets people up for more successful resilience, if you will.
Right.
And I'm right in the thick of the analysis right now, and we'll be taking on the second round of interviews in the next few weeks. And it's going to be interesting to listen to people's stories now that we're in the thick of the second wave.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially this
so,
month, the holidays as well. Full caveat
yeah.
to our viewers, Doreen has interviewed me on this, and I don't know if I even had a definition for resilience. I didn't, it did not, I think I can be honest and say, I didn't factor resilience into my mindset at all, either on a personal level or on a professional level. I mean, I knew what it meant, what the
Yeah.
word means from a dictionary standpoint, but I never once tried to attach it to myself. So,
Yeah, and it's interesting because what I'm hearing is that when you ask women to provide an example of their resilience in their personal life versus in business, you're right. A lot of them, we haven't stopped long enough often to just even think about it, right? It's just like, good question. All right, and whereas some of them will say, oh, well, have I got a story for you kind of thing. So yeah, it's and again, just coming back to all this, what I'm hoping to do after kind of teasing out those factors and how it works for some people is I'm hoping to kind of put the spotlight a little bit about what are some of the tools, what are some of the um, skills, if because in some cases you could call it a skill to become more resilient. How do you sharpen that? And what are some of the things that perhaps through that we could feed to our business sisters, resilience tools, resilience tips, and that sort of thing. So that's what I'm hoping that this research will enlighten some actual practical applications.
right. So that was one of my follow-up questions is I'm assuming that most of your thesis subjects, so to speak, uh,
Participants, yes.
participants, are all coming from your Business Sisters network. Is that a correct assumption or?
Yeah, for the most part, they would have known about me through that or were referred by someone who had attended a past event and so on. I had just a couple of weeks ago, someone said, oh my gosh, I really think this particular woman would be an excellent research participant for you.
Okay.
And so it's been by referral. Um, and it's interesting you say that though, because originally when I created Business Sisters, I knew that that was my long game, to be honest, is I knew that, I mean, yes, I was a business owner, have been since 1998, but who was going to give me the time of day to do thesis research? And I didn't know what it would look like back then. Would it be a survey? Would it be interviews? Whatever. But I knew that I'd have to invest time in developing awareness in the community before I could ask anybody to like literally open their souls to me. I'm asking financial questions in some cases and asking how they tackle certain issues. So why would anybody want to trust me with that information if they didn't know me? So that was part of the creation of the Business Sisters from the beginning, as a matter of fact. I think a big part of the resilience too for women is how intertwined personal life and
Okay.
professional life are, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, one of the lessons learned that we had at one point during the first year was, a woman who was doing really, really well, and she had a boyfriend. The boyfriend was part of the ride, but they had a breakup, and then he came back and sued her for half her company for the value, and it's not like she was able to, turn around and sell it and give him half the cash or anything. That wasn't the purpose. And there was no cash to be had, and so on. So it's having these discussions where, and you could have heard a pin drop in that room where they go, oh my God. I mean, it doesn't have to be boyfriend, could be husband, could be. Another one was, she was in business with her husband. They had done extremely well over the years, etc. They had sold the business, and the business sale was closing. I think it was the 31st of October, and and there was an agreement that they would remain with the new owners for a period of time. Husband got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
3 weeks before the sale closed, and died 12 days after the sale closed. The sale could have fallen through
yeah,
because very easily. And this particular owner came in and told us her story, and it was just like, like
yeah.
we're all choked up. But those are real life stories that are not going to be, they're not in a fancy magazine that you can read about, or you don't hear about those unless you are exposed to them through something like that. So anyway, all this to say, to me, it's about real life. It's about, and it's not just about catastrophe either. I don't want to
No, of course
suggest that
not.
it's, you can learn an awful lot through good things too. But it's about sharing what those learning opportunities and lessons learned have been. Yeah.
And I think there's a certain way that men may look at, like approaches can be completely different in just even assessing a situation. And I know I experienced this several times over the course of my career when I'm looking at a legal issue or concern kind of thing within trademarks and stuff. And I assess it completely different, or can come up with perhaps other non-altercation type solutions to the problem. So yeah, it's just a different mind frame, and I think it's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely. And I do think at times we can also introduce a more masculine approach.
yeah,
It does us good, and you were mentioning diversity before. To me, it's not always about being one-sided or just doing things the woman's way or whatever. No, it's being aware, self-aware, and um, aware of how you can do things differently. Because if there's one thing, certainly through this pandemic, we've learned, the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones who are willing to constantly evolve and tinker and change.
yeah,
I've had difficult conversations in the last few weeks with business owners who don't qualify for a lot of the government programs.
yeah,
And if you're a travel agent these days, I'm not seeing that return to the same, levels as what it was, and so on. I mean, and there's a lot of different sectors, but travel agent is the one that popped in my head. And it's like, ladies and gents, you might want to consider doing something else. And I've seen some pick up and move on, and others just shell-shocked and paralyzed. We can advocate for services and policies that do help women entrepreneurs more. I mean, again, another conversation about what's happening with the burden on women when it comes to education, childcare, and elder care right now with this pandemic.
right.
It's been a recession for a lot of women. So maybe there is a future for us to advocate a little bit more on the policy side. We'll see further down the road.
So there's so many directions that the Business Sisters can take, and I think it's really important to mention that the fact that it's a networking event type event, it's more a sisterhood, and that's why it's right in the name, and that's your trademark, and I think it really is one of the best trademarks I've seen for for a women's networking event, because there are tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh
I,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I have tried several different networking events in Ottawa with, I'm not going to mention them because
Okay.
they did zero for me in terms of being able to connect me with people who potentially needed my services or I needed their services. It was more like a show and tell kind of thing, and that was the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I spoke at your event, doing a table topic last, I want to say November
Last
2019.
October, yeah, yeah.
2019, I mentioned to you that there's IP in every single business. And since then, we've had several conversations. I've had several conversations with a lot of the members
Mm-hmm.
who've reached out, and I have no problem with having someone call me for a 15, 20 half hour free consult. And I will tell them, and I have told several of them, well, I don't think you need to register this because this, or yes, 100% you should register it. Or if you can't afford the registration now, here's some tips and tricks to do to make sure that you're still protecting your identity in terms of your trademarks, protecting
Mm-hmm.
your copyright, those kind of things. So we've been talking to Doreen about this as well, and her website and Facebook page, spot on. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for the guidance all on all that, because you're right. I mean, especially with COVID, we haven't perhaps gone all the way with protection, but now I think we're looking at what that'll look like and what could be some ways we can fund that. So thanks for being there and supporting us, and just inviting me on this call today to just be able to chat and give a little bit of exposure.
thank you. Well, we weren't drinking today. I mean, I'm drinking some water.
I've got my bottle right here too.
I
It is
love that
water.
bottle. It's awesome.
It's
Um,
huge. So yeah.
I did want to mention to our viewers that this is our second time around trying to do this video vlog, because the first time around we had some recording gremlins that only recorded the audio. So you might have heard some of the audio that our creative director has taken from the previous taping for this. So Doreen, thank you so much for being my guest here today. To my viewers, thanks for watching. If you like what you see here, please like, share, comment below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, we're not providing legal advice. We're just, today, hydrating and talking IP and business.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.